Well, I'm going to preview 5 times champion CSK for the 2025 IPL season. Now, if we look back 12 months in terms of the IPL, CSK finished 5th. Now, they were very much in the playoff contention leading right up to the end, but they got pipped by RCB for that 4th spot. So they'll be disappointed with that finish, with the history that they have in terms of their performance in the IPL. The one thing we do know about CSK, however, is they don't panic. So they would have looked at that. They very rarely have 2 poor seasons in a row where they don't threaten for the title. So this year, they've pretty much carried on the same formula that they have in previous years. So I'll move to the retention part of the process. So they retained 5 players. So Ruturaj, their captain, Shivam Dubey, obviously the middle order, left-hand power player, had an excellent season last year. Ravindra Jadeja, the epitome of the T20 all-rounder. Mahesh Patirana. So he is obviously the death specialist, really unusual action, and has become a really integral part of that CSK bowling lineup. And then we've got MS Dhoni. So MS Dhoni, there's a new rule now in terms of the retention, that if you've been out of international cricket for a period of time, I think it's 5 years, then you can become an uncapped player. So CSK, along with some other sides, have benefited from the fact that they could retain MS Dhoni for 4 crore. So they've entered the auction still with a good amount of money. They've basically had these retentions sprinkled throughout the order, and then obviously they had to fill the gaps. So CSK have carried on that same mentality, really, of picking experienced players, some that have been potentially let go by other sides or not valued by other sides, and then some young talent. And they've continued that. So what I'm going to do is look through the potential batting lineup, and obviously with the impact rule, this will be a batting first lineup, and then obviously they've got the opportunity, if they're bowling first, to change that, and I'll talk about that in a moment. So Ruturaj Gaikwad, obviously very high up in the orange cap holder, and has been for up to 3 years. He's a high quality player. He's unlucky not to be playing for India, but because there's so much quality around, it's really difficult to find a spot there. But fine player, sound technique, so can score runs at all venues. Devon Conway, that partnership between Devon and Ruturaj has been integral in CSK getting the starts they like, particularly at the Chepauk, where there's often a variation in surfaces. They can skid on beautifully, but they can also hold and be a little bit slow, or they can be a bit damp and they can turn. And both those two have been able to adapt to all of those conditions. Conway hasn't had a tremendous 12 months from a New Zealand perspective, but he's got better and better, looked in good form in the Champions Trophy, and loves opening with these two. So I would expect him to have another big year. He's got a straight swap in Rachin Ravindra if things don't go well or there's an injury with Devon Conway, and that's a straight swap, another left-hander, and they can keep the left-right combination. And they've brought in Sheikh Rashid, who's a 20-year-old from Andhra Pradesh, really promising player. Whether he gets opportunities will pretty much be determined by how many injuries that will eventuate, but he will certainly learn from that experience. Rahul Tripathi has performed really nicely for CSK, for SRH, apologies, and he is what I'd call a plug-and-play player. He knows all about the IPL. He's got that real selfless approach, so he will come out, play aggressively, and do whatever the team requires to try and get a high strike rate. He's more of a cameo type of player than getting a big score, but it fits nicely within the mould of what CSK want. And then you've got a straight swap with someone like Deepak Hooda, who is the same type of player, played for India, has batted sort of anywhere from 3 to 7, as I said, has that international experience, can bowl some off-spin if required, if they've got a whole heap of left-handers and Ashwin's bowled his quota. So good all-round cricketer, and as I said, he is a plug-and-play. So he might not play till the 5th game or the 6th game, but they know when he comes in, they'll get a performance out of him straight away. They bought Sam Curran. I'll go to Shivam Dubey. Obviously, that power player through the middle. They won't want Dubey to bat in the power play. They like him to come in just after the power play, generally when either spin is on, because he's a 6-hitter, or he comes in and then they extend the seam bowlers for a little bit longer, and it makes it easier for the other guys coming at the back end. So he would likely slot in at 4. If it's before the power play, then they might even promote someone like an Ashwin up to blunt that innings, or almost like a sacrifice, and then you've got a whole of a power through the middle. And then as a replacement, you've got Vijay Shankar, once again, another player with international experience, probably undervalued by other sides. Bought for around about the 3 crore mark, which is good business to have experienced players like that either on the sideline or they could slot in at any stage ready to go. And they've also got Andre Siddharth, who's a really promising local player, I guess, from Tamil Nadu, only 18 years old. He's had a tremendous start in first-class cricket, where I think he averages 68 in the first 8 games he's played in first-class cricket. So they've selected Andre Siddharth as the start of a 3-year process. And that's the beauty of a mega auction, is you can identify players who you think in years 2 and 3 could make a major impact in your squad. So some good business there in terms of succession planning. Sam Curran returning to CSK, where he pretty much made a name for himself in the IPL. He's obviously moved his skill set up, so he's more than capable of batting at 5. He's almost a batting all-rounder now, or a true all-rounder, rather than initially when he came on the scene, he was more a bowling all-rounder. So he's got high volume, runs at 5, obviously another left-hander, can attack spin, is good against pace, and reads the game very well. So tactically, a smart addition to that side. And if he was unfit, just a straight swap from a skill set point of view, Jamie Overton, power player, once again, big 6-hitter, big strong lad, can bowl over 140 k's an hour. So he would be a straight swap, or if they wanted to change the shape of the side, he could come in slightly lower down as well. So yeah, nice addition. Ravindra Jadeja, not a lot needs to be said about him. Obviously, if the conditions suit where it turns a little bit, he's incredibly useful, and that combination between Ravindra and Ravi Ashwin has been reunited. MS Dhoni, he last year was facing a minimal amount of balls, and Stephen Fleming talked about, they wanted to, I guess, maximise his impact but minimise the impact on his body. So it'd be interesting to see how he turns up from a physical perspective. The one thing we do know is that he turns up a month early, starts his training, so that by the time the IPL arrives, he is ready to go. So whether he slots in at 7 or whether they use him just in the last 2 or 3 overs to make a big impact, who knows? But I would imagine the latter. Ravichandran Ashwin, they spent a lot of money to get him back to CSK. Obviously, that's his home. It's where he started his IPL venture. Excited to return. He's bowling incredibly well. He has the stock ball that any off spinner around the world would love to have, and especially at the Chepauk, he's got that ability to go up and down through the gears. We know he's got the carom ball. We know he's got the one that slides in. He's got plenty of variations. If the ball turns, he doesn't really need to use all of those. He needs to just trust his stock ball with mainly the odd one that goes straight on. We also saw when Ashwin was at RR, he was used as a floater with the bat and often played some impactful innings. So be interesting to see. As I said, I think he could well slot up if there's early wickets lost, just to try and carry on the momentum. And if he got out, it's not a huge deal or impact on the lineup. Shreyas Gopal, another experienced spinner, obviously a wrist spinner from Karnataka, has played a number of teams throughout the IPL, can contribute a little bit with the bat as well, has some power, and as a leg spinner, I think he's getting better and better with age. So, he might not play, but he could well do, depending on what they do with the overseas leg spin of Noor Ahmad. Vansh Beatty is also a wicketkeeper cover for MS Dhoni. Firstly, I would think that Devon Conway would step up if MS potentially missed a game or two. But if not, they've got the future-proofing in Vansh from Delhi, a really explosive player. He went for 55 lakhs, so there was clearly some interest from other sides as well. And he is seen as a player for the future. So once again, trying to future-proof this side for the time that MS Dhoni decides that he's had enough and he'll move then into the coaching side of things or the mentoring. But who knows when that'll happen. If I go down to Anshul Kamboj, played for MI last year. I guess he came into light in the national scene when he took 10 wickets in an innings in first-class cricket. So very few players around the world have done that. An incredible achievement. And he's also not only very useful with the new ball, but he's can contribute with the bat as well. So the fact you've got somebody at 9 who's more than capable of holding up an end, whether it be with a little bit of power or just manoeuvring the ball to get one of your other batsmen on strike, he's actually got enough skill to do that. So it'll be interesting whether he plays, because he's very much more a new ball bowler, getting better at the back end, but they would look to use at least 2 of his overs, maybe 3 with the new ball. You've got Kamlesh Nagakoti, who's been around a little bit but still hasn't played a huge amount of cricket, been injured a lot. So the fact CSK have got him on their books now will be interesting to see how his development has progressed, whether he's injury-free. If he is, he can get up to close to that 140 range and contribute with the bat as well. So that would be a straight swap. They wouldn't have to change the shape of their side. You've got Ramakrishnan Ghosh as probably more of a batting all-rounder, but he could slot in there. He bowls seam as well. So, whether he slots in as he's very much there as a backup player. CSK love left-arm seamers, and they'll always have one in their lineup. Khalil Ahmed was a great purchase, I think, from DC last year. I was surprised they were able to get him at the price they did. So really good business. An experienced left-armer, and then they've also got Mukesh Chowdhury, who's done well for CSK when he's been fit and available as well. And then they've also brought in Gurjapneet Singh from Tamil Nadu as the third left-arm seamer in the squad. So they will always play one. They always love having one. And they've obviously got Sam Curran as that additional player. But if Sam was out and Jamie Overton was to play, then they'll still have that left-arm variation, which they love. Then we get into the overseas shape. And obviously Matisha Patirana will play. It's just whether they will use him as an impact sub and have Noor Ahmad in the squad, or whether they'll interchange that in terms of who would be the impact sub. They could potentially have both in the 11, have Khalil down here, but I think that's just semantics really. If they were to lose a number of batsmen, like they were in trouble, then they still had the option of bringing in Jamie Overton, and that would be probably why I think they would leave Patirana down here as your impact, bring Noor Ahmad in because he's definitely going to play, and then if they were losing a whole of the wickets, they would have to make a sacrifice to say, hey, are we going to bring in Jamie Overton? But that would mean they can't play Patirana, so that would be a late tactical shift. Similar to when they played Rizvi last year, they brought an extra batter. I think they could do it a little bit smarter and get more impact with someone like a Jamie Overton. Obviously, they would lose the death skills of Patirana, however. And a fantastic backup for Patirana and Nathan Ellis. And the one thing we know with a person with that type of action is there's a bit of an injury history with Patirana. So if he was to miss injury, they wouldn't miss or wouldn't lose a heck of a lot with Nathan Ellis coming in. Fantastic death specialist, has played a lot more international cricket since last year. He's getting better and better, and I think he is a fantastic addition to this squad. So I think all in all, CSK have got a really nice balance for their home ground at the Chepauk, which, they've obviously got plenty of spin options in Jadeja, Ashwin and Noor Ahmad. I mean, they broke the bank for Noor Ahmad in terms of having that spin bowler through the middle, can take wickets, can also bowl towards the back end if conditions suit, particularly at the Chepauk or some of those bigger grounds. So that is a great addition to the squad. If they're playing away, they've also got plenty of quality in the seam bowling. Khalil Ahmed, obviously Sam Curran, they go down that path. Kamboj as a new ball option. And then, as I said, Patirana as well to close out the last 10 overs. So a really nice balanced squad for all conditions. I don't think they have the threat from a new ball bowling point of view that some sides have. You see with Kamboj, Khalil, potentially Sam Curran. Like it's a little bit more of a defensive bowling unit than an attacking one. But at the back end of the innings, when the game's on the line, the likes of having Patirana there, even Sam Curran, if the ball holds in the surface, then they do have plenty of skill. And I think I wouldn't be surprised if Ashwin opened the bowling on a number of occasions also, especially at the Chepauk. So I've talked about the seam bowlers in terms of as a possible red flag in terms of areas where CSK can improve. The other part is, look, I think that top order is very sound, and that's What I would say is about that middle order is there's not, other than MS, there's not a huge amount of power there. You know, you look at some of the other sides in terms of that power at 6, 7, 8. I mean, Jadeja, we know he's a fine player, but you wouldn't say he's a huge power player. Ashwin is the same, you know, does have power, but not compared to the likes of, you know, Dre Russ that some sides could well have. So MS just keeps proving us wrong in terms of that ability to hit it out of the park. You know, Sam Curran is a batsman rather than someone who just can come out and hit from ball one. So I think that 5, 6, 7, 8, although all quality players, there's not as much power in that lineup as some others. So they will expect the platform to be set here. If they have one of these guys in batting at over 15, someone like a Dubé, then, hey, anything is possible. But to win games from nowhere when you're behind the run rate, there's not quite as many players around MS there that give them the power. And that's where they might look at someone like a Jamie Overton to slot in there, and it's just how they would do that. You know, they could do that instead of Sam Curran, slide up Jadeja and bring in Overton and have another power player. So they could look at that. But that's another area where CSK might not start with that, but they have the option to move that towards the back end of the season. All round, I think you've got a very well-balanced squad. I know Stephen Fleming and MS Dhoni know what they're doing in terms of constructing a squad. I don't think they'll miss out on the playoffs 2 seasons in a row. Last year, I said they finished 5th. I think they will scrape in this year in 4th place. And I think we know that if CSK make the playoffs, that's when they pretty much play their best cricket. So don't be surprised if they give the 6th trophy a really good shake again this season.